Oklahoma is my home. This is where I was born and raised. It was here where I was given a chance at life, being conceived after my mother was violated at the age of 16. This is where I received my education and learned with hard work, discipline, and courage anything was possible. But things have changed. This is not the Oklahoma I remember. Over the last several years, I've seen fear, chaos, and division tear this nation apart through the efforts of communists and the apathy of Republicans in name only, who are either incapable or unwilling to do whatever it takes to protect our God-given rights. Election fraud, open borders, riots, unvetted Afghan refugees, and 300,000 plus acres of land sold to Chinese nationals has made Oklahoma the hub for human trafficking, the indoctrination of our children in critical race theory, sexual immorality, and abortion on demand. And finally, the unconstitutional and illegal vaccine mandate, leaving hundreds of thousands of our legal and law-abiding citizens jobless. Enough is enough, and the political theater must stop. We must have a governor who's willing to lead legislators and Oklahomans to fight back against this tyranny and aggressively address these issues head-on. As the next governor of the state of Oklahoma, I will, in the first 100 days, initiate a forensic audit with canvases to ensure election integrity, secure Oklahoma's borders, stop all state funding to school districts who train or teach CRT to faculty, staff, or students, and end all abortions. Oklahoma, let's put our faith back in God, believe that nothing is impossible, and make Oklahoma free again. Oklahoma is my home. This is where I was born and raised. It was here where I was given a chance at life, being conceived after my mother was violated at the age of 16. This is where I received my education and learned with hard work, discipline, and courage anything was possible. But things have changed. This is not the Oklahoma I remember. Over the last several years, I've seen fear, chaos, and division tear this nation apart through the efforts of communists and the apathy of Republicans in name only, who are either incapable or unwilling to do whatever it takes to protect our God-given rights. Election fraud, open borders, riots, unvetted Afghan refugees, and 300,000 plus acres of land sold to Chinese nationals has made Oklahoma the hub for human trafficking, the indoctrination of our children in critical race theory, sexual immorality, and abortion on demand. And finally, the unconstitutional and illegal vaccine mandate, leaving hundreds of thousands of our legal and law-abiding citizens jobless. Enough is enough, and the political theater must stop. We must have a governor who's willing to lead legislators and Oklahomans to fight back against this tyranny and aggressively address these issues head-on. As the next governor of the state of Oklahoma, I will, in the first 100 days, initiate a forensic audit with canvases to ensure election integrity, secure Oklahoma's borders, stop all state funding to school districts who train or teach CRT to faculty, staff, or students, and end all abortions. Oklahoma, let's put our faith back in God, believe that nothing is impossible, and make Oklahoma free again. Oklahoma is my home. This is where I was born and raised. It was here where I was given a chance at life, being conceived after my mother was violated at the age of 16. This is where I received my education and learned with hard work, discipline, and courage anything was possible. But things have changed. This is not the Oklahoma I remember. Over the last several years, I've seen fear, chaos, and division tear this nation apart through the efforts of communists and the apathy of Republicans in name only, who are either incapable or unwilling to do whatever it takes to protect our God-given rights. Election fraud, open borders, riots, unvetted Afghan refugees, and 300,000 plus acres of land sold to Chinese nationals has made Oklahoma the hub for human trafficking, the indoctrination of our children in critical race theory, sexual immorality, and abortion on demand. And finally, the unconstitutional and illegal vaccine mandate, leaving hundreds of thousands of our legal and law. Welcome to another virtual town hall meeting. I'm Dr. Mark Sherwood, as you know, the 2022 gubernatorial candidate for Oklahoma. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, wherever you are in this wonderful state of Oklahoma, or wherever you are around the country. We've had people view these town halls from all around the United States and abroad, both continental and non-continental U.S., and we have many people viewing right now. So we are grateful that you're here. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be right here with us. So we'll make sure we keep this to be very informative, very educational, and very motivational. We need to get our country back. We all understand that we are under this bombardment of more taking away of our rights, one slice, one piece, one wedge at a time. And if we think for one moment that the federal government or any mistaken and very, very naive. Folks, we're at a time now where we have to step up. We have to know what we're talking about. We have to find complete and utter resolve in what we do. With that said, we'll continue to bring on our Oklahoma First candidates and even some out of state candidates as we go forward in these virtual town halls, as well as the many, many live appearances we have around this state. I have been cow chip throwing in Beaver, Oklahoma, all the way to feeding little baby lambs in southeastern Oklahoma. I have been on farms and ranches and everywhere else and everything in between, and I have enjoyed the wonderful people of Oklahoma. The greatest thing about this campaign is getting to know you, the people, and it's been a joy and a pleasure. And so I want to remind you real quick before we get going with our special, wonderful, awesome guest and friend tonight, by the way, is I want you to download our app right here, Sherwood 2022. The website we have, as you know, is Sherwood2022.com, but the app is a feed from that website, and this app is super important. I want you to download the app because it shows you where we are. So there's a lot of events coming up that are very, very important, including what I believe is the most historic event in Oklahoma in the last 200 years. Yes, I said the last 200 years, and I'll tell you about that. What's coming up here this weekend is Saturday. I'll be speaking in two locations, one at the Capitol. There's a wonderful rally down there. So I'll be speaking there. But then Sunday, I'll be in Woodward, Oklahoma all day. We'll be speaking at the Thousand Hills Ranch. That'll begin at 10 o'clock a.m. in Woodward, Oklahoma. I'll be there all day long. There's 2-3 events out there. So if you're out in northwestern Oklahoma, get over there. I want to give you a mask-free, social distancing violating hug and a handshake too, to speak of that. On the 2nd, which is Monday, we'll be at the Major County 2A in Fairfax, Oklahoma. Tuesday, we'll be doing a virtual town hall right back here, same time, same place, sort of, with congressional candidate Sabrina Banks, and you don't want to miss that one. Wednesday, we'll be on a town hall with Texas gubernatorial candidate Chad Prather. Now, Chad's a good friend of mine. You will be all over that. Cowboy Chad Prather will be with us. And then Thursday, we'll be in Sequoia County. That will be at Sallisaw, Oklahoma. Friday will be in Stillwater, but Saturday the 7th, this is important, at the Make Oklahoma Free rally, Sheriff Richard Mack, who is infamous or famous for suing the federal government under the Clinton administration, and he won, and he's still alive to tell about it. He's coming over to train all of the sheriffs in Oklahoma on constitutional law. This is a big deal. Folks, you understand the gravity of this. If we get our state back from the borders of the state and the borders of the counties, we will retain, regain, and maintain our republic. And this is what the United States of America needs. It needs a state to step up. Richard Mack is going to come here and train these sheriffs, and they're going to be given continuing education credit for that, courtesy of Sheriff Damon Devereaux. So that's a massively important deal. I want you to get there. You're going to register right here on the website, and it's the 7th. It's all day. There's other things coming up. The 21st in Norman, Oklahoma, and that's where that training is, by the way, the 7th. But 21st in Norman, Oklahoma, we're going to bring my friend John Bevere's coming in to speak to the crowd about the importance of electing godly people into government. So you don't want to miss that, but you go right here. Also, with the issues, this is important. If a candidate doesn't list their issues publicly for you to see, they have something to hide. If you ask them about it, make sure they are going to answer it and lock them in. This is why we did this. I want you to know we locked in to these promises because these are campaign promises. It's a contract with you, the people of Oklahoma, and actually the people of these United States of America, because we're not going to let you down at all. So I want you to get this app, keep us in your prayers and make sure you know what's happening all the time. And I can't wait to see you out there on the campaign trail. A little bit of rules of engagement tonight so that you can kind of understand what's going on. I want you to go to the Facebook right now feed. We're live on the Mark Sherwood for Oklahoma Governor page. And right now, I want you to prepare to ask questions. And so as we bring on our guest and you started getting a flow of questions, ask the questions. And I'll remind you a couple times about that. Make sure you share. So if you care, share. Share the Facebook feed as we go. And that's super important, folks, because we need to get the word out. Oklahoma can be freaky to say, well, this is a red state, whatever. It is not. It is absolutely a rhino state. We don't have a Democratic problem here, or do we? Do we have Democrats in rhino skin? Do we have Democrats with an R by their name? I submit to you, we do. I could beat you up all day long with the Oklahoma GOP stance, and I will one of these days, and you're going to go, oh my goodness, they don't do that. You are so right. But we are identifying people that are stepping up and going to stand up, speak up, and be bold about the truth, unashamed and unafraid. And as we get in here, one of the men that I want to introduce tonight, or the man, I met him as I was speaking at an OK2A. Now, a few years back, I hadn't heard of OK2A. I knew my Second Amendment rights. I had my guns. I wasn't going to give them up regardless because I knew that. But then there's this wonderful group called the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association, which absolutely, in my opinion, is the strongest, most passionate group of patriots in Oklahoma right now. They are not just a Second Amendment right group. They are a liberty group. They push for the right things. And when they get something done, they do it by ringing the legislature's phones with the voices of the people. One of the people that rallies the people like no one that I've seen that just has a passion for life is none other than my friend Wayne Hill. Now, Wayne is running for House District 66, and I'll let him talk about the geographic boundaries of that. So I met Wayne at the OK2A meetings. He has a position of leadership there, and we met. We instantly connected, became friends, and I saw a passion and a caring about this man that I was like, that guy will fight. That guy will stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and he won't back down. So I appreciate that. Without further ado, Wayne Hill, welcome to the virtual town hall tonight.
Thank you, Mark. It's great to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, my gosh. I'm pumped up. Now, Wayne, just so people will know, House District 66, but it is WayneHill2022.com, WayneHill2022.com, and we'll get that put in the feed, and that'll tell kind of what you are about, et cetera. So, Wayne, let's get right into it, man. What prompted you to get into the House District 66 race?
So, I never aspired to be in public office. I've served at the grassroots for over 30 years. Excuse me. I was on the board of directors of Bing Crisis Pregnancy Centers. I've been in the pro-life fight. I've been involved with the GOP for 25 years, serving as state committee man or state platform committee. So, I've always worked behind the scenes trying to protect our liberties. I realized at an early age how important it was. God called me at a young age in order to be involved. I never thought I would run for public office, though. But through a series of events, I was asked to run. And first of all, I just laughed. I thought that's the last thing I want to do. And my wife's, after I was asked multiple times, Kathy, my wife said, you really need to pray about what you're being asked. I said, Kathy, I don't want to pray about this. I'm not in line to do this. And so finally, after a series of events where the Lord showed me this is what he wanted me to do, I realized I need to step up my game, enter the race. I have 10 grandkids, Mark. I look at this generation, I think, what are we handing our children? I've seen a deterioration of our liberties over time, over my lifetime, especially the last 2 years. I've seen what's occurred, the federal government overreach. It's time to push back. It's time to take back our liberties. It's time to take back our country. And so that's why I'm entering this race.
Well, you talked about your activities in the pro-life. Talk about pro-life versus pro-choice versus abolition.
Yeah, so I've been in that fight for many years. I remember when Randall Terry had where we would go and pray in front of abortion clinics. I was involved in that. And so, that touched my heart that I needed to be involved. So I quickly joined a crisis pregnancy center would volunteer. Eventually, I worked my way to the board of directors. Over the years, we've tried to regulate abortion. A baby in the womb is one of our citizens, an unborn child. It is purely human. From the time of conception, it has its own blood supply, it has its own DNA, RNA. There's even scientifically and biblically, scripturally, we can identify this as a child. So consequently, they should be affronted all the liberties that our Constitution and our God provides for us, because that's where our liberties come from, Mark. They come from our Creator. They don't come from government. They don't come from man. So as a Christian, it's my responsibility to protect it. But we've tried to regulate abortion over the years through legislation. And what we've done is we have just as many of abortions today as we ever did. Yeah. So Mark, my goal is I want to stop abortion. Yeah. I want to stop abortion. Abortion is immoral. It's illegal. It was a bad decision by the Supreme Court. They made law through the 14th Amendment. They inserted a privacy law which did not exist. Mm-hmm. And if you read the 14th Amendment, it really says all citizens their life, liberty, and property should be protected.
Yeah.
That trumps any privacy law. Life is precious. It's from our Creator. I intend to protect it.
Well, I appreciate that. As you know, we stand together in that thought process. And the 14th Amendment is, protecting the rights therein, but it sort of misappropriated the rights therein with not understanding that, like you said, the rights therein applies to the lady, but not the person inside of the lady. So it's a misinterpretation. It was erroneous, and we allowed that to occur some 49 years ago in 1973.
And the Supreme Court did not recognize the child as a person in that ruling, right, which is unfortunate.
That's the key.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, and I think as we talked about this before, there's multiple bills, laws on the books in even Oklahoma, and you're right, there's been no stopping it. It's just continued to go. We've got several abortion clinics, and now there's a bill that was just signed, Senate Bill 612, that talked about the making abortion a felony, but there's not even a felony noted on there. It's like almost the funniest thing in the world, and not funny because people, Wayne, are not allowed to live. And tell me, from your perspective, what is the impact of abortion in our state?
Oh, wow. Where do you start, Mark? First of all, this is life. As a Christian, it's my responsibility to protect all life. But, you can look at it socially, economically. You can look at it from every aspect of society. You can see where it has harmed us. We don't have the population base to support Social Security. We don't look at what it's done to us morally. Any country that actually kills their own babies, we are seeing just a deterioration of our morals and our values. You're seeing it in our schools. You're seeing it in our workplace, our government, at all aspects of society. You're seeing that moral deterioration. So you know what? And how can our Creator bless our nation whenever we are doing this to our most innocent? So, yeah. And the impact, it affects every single facet of our society.
Yeah, really good point. And, behind you, there's a very famous portrait, which is going to help me segue into something here. It is a portrait of George Washington kneeling and praying there by his horse. There is, you mentioned it, the Creator, God, gave us our rights, liberties, and there's an erroneous teaching out here, at least I believe so, of this idea of separation of church and state. Talk about that as it applies to the church being involved in government or not.
Sure. If you look at the writings of our founding fathers, the Bible was the most quoted book in writing our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. Throughout their writings, they talk about Jesus Christ. They talk about the Creator, natural rights. Our Constitution is based on biblical principles. Period. The Supreme Court has stated over 300 times in their rulings that the United States is a Christian nation. So this separation of church and state is a fallacy. That really comes from a letter that Jefferson wrote to the Dansbury Baptists They were worried that one denomination was going to dominate another one. He was trying to assure them, no, that would not occur. So this whole premise of separation of church and state, which many of our pastors have accepted, unfortunately, is erroneous, and we've got to turn that around. We must change that. As Christians, actually, we should be the watchdogs of government.
Yeah, and that letter that you're referring to was written on January 1st, 1802. Thomas Jefferson penned that letter to the Danbury Baptists because they were afraid that there was going to be one religion or one denomination that was orchestrated or dominated or commanded by the government. And Mr. Jefferson kind of delineated that and said, no, 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 no. We're going to have a clear separation between church and state. He was talking about the government staying out of church, but he was not
Yes.
talking about keeping the church and God out of government. So we've just kind of butchered that up. And I honestly think, Wayne, it's turned into a lot of a cowardice, passivity that's made the church pretty ineffective today.
Oh, no doubt about it. The Johnson Amendment also, took away what the pastors perceived as them being restricted on them getting involved in government. That was never true. That was never true. Constitutionally, biblically, we have every right for the church to be involved in being the overseers, the watchdog of government. And our founding fathers actually developed it that way or created it that way. And you look at their writings, Mark, throughout their writings, it's replete with them talking about our Christian values and Jesus Christ and just the Deuteronomy. That if you look at Deuteronomy, that's the Mosaic Law. That was the most quoted Old Testament book of our founding fathers. So you know what? Scripture was very important. They understood. One thing our founding fathers understood, Mark. They understood the nature of God, man, and government. Yeah. God is perfect. His ways are good for man. Man is fallen. He's in a fallen state. He wants to rule over his fellow man, and he's going to use government in order to do that. And that's why they tried to set up a limited federal government, separation of powers and state, a horizontal structure, but also a vertical structure of the federal government, and then state government having all authority that the federal government doesn't have, that the states have it through the 10th Amendment. So you know what? Government, the founders wanted to limit government.
I appreciate you saying that. And by the way, remind you folks to go ahead and submit your questions through here. We got a bunch of cool stuff coming in here, and I appreciate that. So keep these things coming, questions, and then here in about 20 minutes-ish, we'll go into these questions, and you just fire away. So again, Mark Sherwood for Oklahoma Governor on the Facebook, and here they are, just kind of go through there. You mentioned something there, the limitations of the federal government. Wayne, what I believe is this is probably today, the most understood or misunderstood concept. Talk about that 10th Amendment and really define and describe what that is.
So if first of all, Mark, I carry a Constitution around. I know you do everywhere you go. Let me preface this with, ladies and gentlemen, we need to read this document. We need to understand this document, and then we need to apply this document. This is the law of the land right here. This is where we get our laws. So to answer your question specifically about the federal government, Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution describes the powers of the U.S. Congress. It gives them what's called enumerated powers. Enumerated powers are limited. There's only 18 of them, Mark. All other authority through the 9th and 10th Amendment is left with the states and the people. So as states, we've allowed the federal government to way overreach their authority, and we've not kept them in check. Mark, that we must understand the power of the people. We are governed by the consent of the governed, and we must use the 10th Amendment to rein in the federal government. Mark, I'm going to be quite honest here. Yeah. I think about, tell me one good thing that comes out of D.C. I can't think of one good thing. D.C. is almost gone. And so the way we're going to save our republic, and that's what we are, Mark, we're a constitutional republic. The way we're going to save it, I firmly believe, is through the 10th Amendment and electing individuals that understand that and that's willing to take bold, courageous stands in order to protect this liberty.
Yeah, I look at the federal government, and I'm just looking at it from an honest point of view. They're doing just a horrific job. They don't secure the borders. I don't know that our military could win a war. They don't know anything about health. They don't know anything about wealth. They're just miserable failures in leadership. And so the bottom line is, in my world, I tell people that if the federal government tells you to do something, you need to say probably no, because it's not going to be good. They're poor businessmen, businesswomen. They are nothing but elitist. And you get up there, the big buildings, and frankly, I want government up there to shrink, to down to this
Yes.
pea size. And I want to see the wealth transferred to the people and out of those stupid
Yes.
politicians' hands. Now, Wayne, when we look at this, in your opinion, what is it going to take? I mean, what radical steps are going to take? I mean, and I want you to tie in the Second Amendment and the First Amendment with this even. What radical steps are we going to have to take back and maintain our republic via the 10th Amendment?
Well, first of all, Oklahoma, we're very fortunate, Mark, that we live in Oklahoma because we have passed two laws in Oklahoma. One was the 10th Amendment Act, which we can take the authority of the state, and we can tell the federal government go pound sand.
Yeah.
But that's going to take a governor and also an AG and a legislature that's willing to enforce it. But also, I firmly believe the National Firearms Act and the Gun Control Act of 1968, they're unconstitutional.
Yeah.
I mean, nowhere does it give the federal government the authority to regulate arms. Mm-hmm. And so we're very fortunate that the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association, we did pass a law which Senator Warren Hamilton and Representative Sean Roberts were the authors. It was the Second Amendment Sanctuary Act. And I was at the signing ceremony with the governor. But what that does is it pretty much states that any new law or regulation that comes out of the federal government, gun law, they are null and void, nullified by the time they hit our borders. So you know what? We're very fortunate we have that. Now, in our Constitution, I think it's Article 26, Section 2, we have a weak Constitution when it comes to our gun rights. That needs to change. We need to change that. It pretty much gives you the verbiage of the Second Amendment, but then it says, but the legislature can regulate our guns. That has to change. The state should not have the authority to regulate our guns either. So in order to answer your question specifically, we have to make sure that we solidify our Constitution in order to protect our gun rights. Because, Mark, if we lose our First and Second Amendments, we don't have anything in this country. And I would say also, if we don't have fair elections in this country, we don't have anything as well. So those are priorities.
I agree wholeheartedly. And you and I have spent many minutes, hours, time talking about this very same thing. Wayne, when we talk about the First Amendment in general, were the lockdowns, mandates, and all this stuff, are they unconstitutional?
Absolutely, they are unconstitutional. You look in the Article 1, Section 8, nowhere does it give the government authority to close down your economy, to tell you that you're essential, Mark, but I'm not. That you have to take a vaccine in order to have your job. You can't support your family now. I'm going to close down your church, by the way. You know what? You can't go and meet Sunday church. Government has no authority. I'm talking about state, local, or federal government to regulate those things.
When that was happening, I got to tell you, I was shocked that we even had people that were in government, political positions, whatever, that were even suggesting that. And then I came to the reality that it appears to be to me, and I want your opinion on this, that majority of our politicians do not know the Constitution, the thing that they're supposed to protect. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, if you look at government, what is the purpose of government? It's to protect. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which pursuit of happiness is really property. You know what? Government's primary responsibility, Mark, is to protect our lives and protect our liberty and protect our property. That is a primary function of government. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't do that, and it didn't do that over the last 2 years, and what we also saw is how much control and authority our local governments were willing to exercise over us, which they should not have. Our school boards, our city councils, our county commissioners, etc. You know what? I'm the GOP chair for Osage County. Yeah. I've told everyone we need to concentrate on local elections. Those are the most important. The more you can bring government down closer to the people, the more authority we have as citizens, and the more control and interaction we have with our legislature or with the people that actually govern us. And you know what? Again, I'm going to say this: we're supposed to be governed by the consent of the governed. Who's the governed? We are. By whose consent? Ours.
Yeah.
So you know what? We need to really concentrate on local elections.
Yeah, the society right now, and I've observed this. There's kind of a sexiness, an appeal to go to Washington, and I'm like, stop, time out a minute. You can't. I mean, I appreciate President Trump's vision to make America great again. I want to preface it with that. However, it is impossible to make America great again until you make Osage County great again, right? You can't do it. The whole making America great again is great, but it's not possible if the states, the counties, the cities falter and don't hold America and the American government in accountability for who they are and what they're supposed to do. And that's the beauty of it all, the checks and balances. But we got this thing flipped upside down, don't we?
Yes, yes, we do. I firmly believe the authority resides with the state and the people. We've got to reinstitute, reclaim that authority. And if we can do that at the state level, we can reclaim our nation. I firmly believe that. Matter of fact, I believe that is going to be the saving grace of this nation is states standing up. And we see it every day, Mark, whether you like marijuana or you don't. You know, I'm not here to editorialize on that. But marijuana to the FDA is a Schedule I drug, the same as heroin and cocaine and all the other illegal drugs. But states are saying, we're going to sell it. Not only we're going to sell it for therapeutic reasons, we're going to sell it for recreational reasons as well. We've told the federal government, your laws don't apply here. That's the authority of the states. And we can do it in many, many areas, Mark.
Yeah, we can do it. The Second Amendment of easy. That's something we shouldn't have to even deal with. The Constitution of the state of Oklahoma needs to be modified to fix that clause you're referring to, and then we can do that with abortion. We can do it. We just can. We just don't because the example you gave, I think, is extremely poignant and beautiful to the point. Everybody understands it, and we still need to understand that it's still a federal crime. Schedule I to possess or sell marijuana. I mean, it's like crazy, but they're not going to come here, the DEA, and arrest you for doing that because they would be arrested. And so that's something that we kind of drew the line in the sand, so to speak, and we said, you're not welcome here, federal government. Well, Wayne, I want to kind of hone in on your area. House District 66. Give us a boundary and kind of describe what the main issues are as you see it from your area.
So it includes, it's Sky Tewksbury and Sand Springs, so it's partially Tulsa County and primarily Osage County. And it's a new district because redistricting just occurred. So Mark, some of my priorities is election integrity is very important. I would like to see random audits of state elections. And we said, I'm not sure how, if we contract out with a agency to do that. I don't want state government to do it. I want an outside agency to do it. But we should audit our elections. As Osage County chairman, I appoint the person that actually oversees the elections here in Osage County. One of them, you know, the Democratic Party has a person and the election secretary has a person. We do know that regulations are not being followed. We have scrutinized our voter rolls. We know there's many, many discrepancies. We actually are trying to partner with an organization called Oklahoma Liberty Watch, where they will canvass our Osage County and actually look for the accuracy of our voter rolls. So we're trying to do something about it in Osage County. But if we don't have fair elections, Mark, we have nothing. We must have fair elections. So that's a priority. Also, there's a couple of sheriff bills that I'd really like to see. We have these bills before the House and the Senate right now, and it gives the authority. Obviously, the sheriff is the main law enforcer of the county, but we want to codify that. We want to make sure that there's no question of his authority. We want to be able to give the sheriff's authority to arrest federal agents that are breaking unconstitutional laws in Osage County or any other county in Oklahoma. We want to also give them the permission or have a federal agent get their permission to arrest someone in their county, like that. Also, I had wrote some down here. I know. Mark, we need to actually look at every state agency and every state department. The state government's way too big. once we get a program or a department, it never goes away. It just continues to grow. We need to audit these. We need to look for redundancy. We need to start thinking, is this really a primary role that government should be involved in? And we need to start eliminating a lot of these departments and agencies, laws, and bring the money back to the people that own it. You and me, Mark. It's our money. And so I'd like to see it come back to our small business owners. Our small, especially with inflation the way it's occurring right now, they need some relief, Mark. So I would love to give tax relief to them by eliminating a lot of government.
I love that. And to just echo and affirm that point, our taxes need to go down, and we're seeing this lack of accountability in organizations such as, for one example, the OTA. $1.7 billion in debt right now, building more turnpikes, borrowing more money from outside bond investments to pay off your debt here. It's like getting a credit card to pay a credit card to pay a credit card, and using the idea of paying less than minimum and selling that forward. I mean, that's a dumb business move. And we have our tax money being used to bribe or incentivize businesses to come here. And that is not what we should be doing, because that's going to crush the small businesses. They're not going to be able to keep up like that. You're incentivizing businesses to come here from other places, but yet you're not taking care of your own hometown folks. And so comment on that right there, would you?
So there's a big movement in Mays County to bring in a large corporation, and they're giving him like $1.4 billion in order to do that. So what we're doing is that's corporate welfare, in my opinion. And what we're doing is, who pays those? Are your tax dollars and my paying for it. But we're not giving the people the companies here that are established, we're not giving them tax breaks. You know what? There are fellow. So no, they're trying to educate. Well, actually, we were involved in school boards. We recruited a couple of individuals to run for school board. They both won, and we're going to have another opening here, possibly in another few weeks. They are also in the process of looking for a new superintendent, so we're trying to influence that as well. But you know what? Again, Mark, it goes back to local elections, and being involved in local elections, and that's really what we're trying to do: take care of our county, and then it goes from there.
Wayne, do you see yourself being a career politician?
Oh no. Actually, Mark, I interact with a lot of individuals up at the Capitol, and I know how things work up there. And this is going to be very challenging for me because you know what? I believe in the original intent of the Constitution. The Constitution is based on biblical principles. That's what's going to guide me.
It is. We have a ton of people watching tonight, so I appreciate all this. This is great. It's good. But as we, kind of go to the Q&A time, and when I want to kind of get into that, from your perspective, and I think you kind of alluded to this earlier, what do we do from here, Wayne? We're at this edge, man. We're at this edge of losing it. What can the average American Oklahoman do? What are three things you would tell them to do?
Yeah, that is a great question, Mark. And so you know what? That's one of the things that I've been involved in over the last 10 years, and that's with OK2A. So first of all, I would say, join a Liberty organization where your voice actually compounds with others. OK2A, Oklahoma Health and Parental Rights, OPAC, abortion-free states, etc. Find an organization where you have passion, inform yourself, and then learn how to follow bills, know what bills apply to your passion, and then become a citizen lobbyist. A citizen lobbyist is someone that is a program that we train our members, and what it involves is picking those bills, following through the legislative process, calling your legislators, engaging with them, letting them know where you stand, and then vote, and then educate others. If we will do that, and if the church will do that, Mark, we can turn this nation around. I firmly believe we're on the cusp of doing that. And praise God, if all Christians will get involved in this process, just like a school board, you may have 500 people show up for a school board election, maybe 300. There may be precincts where there's no one that even shows up at the polls. Well, consequently, if churches would get involved, we could pick the people we wanted for the school board. That's another area I'd like to see. I did not mention that earlier. I'd like to see all elections on general, primary, or runoff dates. And not off date or off season elections. I'd like to eliminate those.
I agree that has brought confusion. It's brought lower turnout than is needed. It's brought less awareness because you can have these off-date elections and nobody knows about. Oh, there was an election. They completely missed that. Wayne, there are people out here, and I'm going to kind of throw a couple of ringers at you here because I want you to respond. I'm going to respond as what the public has responded to me many times. Well, the elections are rigged anyway. Why do I vote?
Well, okay, so I admit there was cheating in the last election, and even in Oklahoma, we see signs of potential manipulation. I don't have I want to see the full evidence before I make an accusation. Mm-hmm. But you know what? We must change that. We must be accountable. We must be watchdogs of our election process. We can overwhelm the cheating. I think Donald Trump overwhelmed the cheating. They had to cheat in the middle of the night. They had algorithms, 10% algorithms built into their elections. But Donald Trump's election results were so overwhelming, they had to cheat in the middle of the night. So yes, it's very important to still be involved and to vote. If we don't, though, if you say, I'm not going to vote, well, guess what? You're throwing your hands up in the air and you're letting evil fill that void. Mark, we cannot, good people don't fill the voting booths, evil will, and we can't allow that to happen. Mark, for our children and our grandchildren, we must engage, vote, be good citizens, be citizen lobbyists. It takes more than just voting, Mark. I would tell that person, just don't vote. That's just the first step. That's the first step. You got to do a lot more to be a good American, to protect your liberties. And as a Christian and as an American, it's my responsibility to hand to the next generation liberty. That's my responsibility.
Yeah, I love that, Wayne. And every time we've talked, as I stated at the top of our broadcast, you've exhibited a passion that I frankly admire and appreciate and just honor. It's contagious. And I think that people need to get a hold of this. And when you hang around people like Wayne Hill, you're going to get fired up. And it's good because the passion is contagious. The patriotism is contagious. The constitutionalism is contagious. And even godliness is contagious. And we need to continue to push that narrative forward as we go. Wayne, in this election coming up, the primary is June 28th. And I know that that's coming up in basically less than 2 months from now, right? We're just right at that edge. Yes. The question I get asked a lot, being out across this state, is can we really win and can we make a difference? What's your response?
Mark, first of all, you've invested your time, talent, and treasure into your race. I have as well. Mark, if I thought it was hopeless, I would have put my hands up and I would not have done that. I would have hunkered down, got my preps and, got my gun and, my ammo, and then been ready for doomsday. I don't believe that, Mark. I am an optimist. I believe we can turn this nation around, and that's what I'm working for. Mark, and I think you're the same way. I see that passion in you. As long as I have a breath in my lungs and the Lord gives me life, it's my duty, it's my honor, first of all, to serve him, but secondly, to protect our liberties. Mark, if you look at the history of man, no one has had more sovereignty than the United States citizen in the history of man being able to run his own course, to choose liberty. We have a great responsibility that comes with this gift of liberty, and it is a gift, Mark. So, you know what? As long as I have breath in my lungs, I'll be fighting for liberty.
Wayne, I appreciate you, and I want you to know that I stand with you all the way. This man, ladies and gentlemen, right here is a true warrior and patriot. I have seen him show up at meetings, and what you see is what you get. He doesn't change. This is who he is. I've watched him stand up in meetings unashamedly, unequivocally, acknowledging the Lord as his personal Lord and Savior. I watched him talk about Constitution. I watched him talk about saving children. I watched him talk about saving the next generation. And I am proud to call him a friend. I'm proud to call him a patriot, and I stand with him all the way. And you need to too, as well, in your home area. We are all Oklahomans, and we only need to have the ability to stand up and allow your voice to be heard. Our voices have been silenced, perhaps by our own socks in our own mouths. We have just not spoken up. We have turned the other cheek. But I think, Wayne, when you look at this, and I want you to comment on that from this Judeo-Christian principle area to turn the other cheek, there comes a time that you got to quit being peaceful, but there comes a time you got to get in the game and fight. Talk about that.
Well, first of all, okay, so I'm going to get a little granular here. You look at our colonial ancestors, they had the Geneva Bible, and the Geneva Bible had a bunch of commentary. That's what makes it different. King James didn't like the Geneva Bible because, you know what? It challenged the monarchy. The Geneva Bible did. They understood that our rights come from God. Our colonial ancestors did. Our founding fathers did. We've lost that, Mark. And so consequently, I want to reclaim that. Our rights come from God, and whenever man's laws actually conflict with God's laws, it's time for us to stand up. Our founding fathers actually exhausted every avenue they could before they actually declared their independence from Great Britain and King George. But you know what? We still have avenues where we can peacefully, constitutionally reclaim our liberties. Mm-hmm. I don't know where this leads eventually, Mark. I don't know. But I do know that, I am going to do everything I can to actually reclaim our liberties through constitutional means. Did that answer your question?
It does. And this is encouragement for everyone listening tonight. And Wayne is right. Do we know exactly how we're going to get to this place? No. But do we know which direction to go? Yes. Do we all need to take the first or second step that's in front of us? Absolutely. We need to be just kind of like Abraham. We need to go that way. And we need to go that way now and not argue with it anymore. We have set back and allowed this federal overreach, federal overrun, and domination. Let's call it tyranny. And it's happened to all of us, and we've all been part of the issues, part of the problems. We all have to take responsibility. Your hand has to go up. But when your hand goes up this time, I'm going to give you a challenge tonight, and then I'm going to give Wayne a little bit of time here before we sign off. You guys, I appreciate you. Make sure you share this video. You share this video. Somebody made a comment, Jesus flipped the table. Y'all, and I appreciate that. They put the y'all at the end to make it good Oklahoma dialect. That is so true. This pen I have in my hand is a pen that you can grab too. It's a pen that's symbolic of what our founding fathers did when they signed that Declaration of Independence. They had open hands and they tried to solve things with negotiation, but they were unable to do that. They exhausted all means. And they finally said, nope, we're not going to put up with it anymore. We're going to sign our name on that document, and we're going to identify ourselves as part of the solution to push back for the salvation of people and the preservation of liberties. And just like our wonderful founding fathers have said, that when we stood up and said, give me liberty or give me death, Patrick Henry uttered those words, March 20th, 1775. So many years ago, but so powerfully appropriate now. My question for you is, will you take this pen? Will you sign your name? Will you put your name on that document? Will you do it for your children? Will you do it for your grandchildren? Will you do it for people you don't even know? Will you protect them? Wayne, last word from you before we say goodbye to our folks.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, God gave us the greatest nation that has ever existed. He gave us a gift that no man in the history of man has ever experienced. I'm talking about the ability to um, um, choose our own course in life. With that responsibility, or with that gift, comes great responsibility. I challenge you: find a cause, engage in government, engage with a candidate, whether it be Mark, whether it be a state senator candidate or a representative candidate of your choosing. I challenge you to actually help them. It takes a lot to run a campaign. Please help them with your time, talent, and treasure. You know, we can take this country back. We can take this country back. I firmly believe this. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe it. I know it's our responsibility to do it. I ask you to join us in taking our nation back, and we can do it at the state and local level. God bless everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak my piece this evening.
Wayne,
and Mark, thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate you. You've been a staunch ally, supporter, and friend, encourager to me. And I just really want to give you my sincere thanks for being that person in my life. You know, when I'm at an event, man, you are right there. You know, you're pumping me up, and I'm like, thank you. We're just getting it fired up. So I just want to formally thank you for that in front of our folks.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure and an honor being with you this evening.
All right, folks. So WayneHill2022.com, House District 66, without question, an Oklahoma people first candidate. There you go. You heard from Wayne tonight. Contact him, get involved. And if you live in that area, you need to tell somebody. If you don't live in there and know somebody does, you need to get on the phone and call them right now. Share this video with them. Share the feed with them. And we're going to share this thing out. You can keep your questions coming. We'll be able to answer those things throughout the course of, you know, the next few days. We'll monitor. If you'll tag us, we'll be able to monitor the feed, and we'll pay attention to it. We're Facebook literate, both Wayne and I, so we can do this, right? So we're good. But the bottom line is, I want to thank you on behalf of Wayne Hill and myself for joining us tonight for this virtual town hall. Folks, listen carefully. We have one opportunity. We cannot cry over spilled milk of yesterday. We cannot, because yesterday is absolutely history. We have to learn from history. We can't live in the past. We have to learn from the past. We have to understand that tomorrow is unknown. It really is. It's a mystery. But folks, we have today right now to make a difference. Today is the greatest gift of all. That's why it's called the present. And so I want you to embrace the present of today and do all you can to stand up for God, for the Constitution, for people. Get involved. We're giving you all kinds of opportunities. Make sure that you download our app one more time at Sherwood 2022 and then Sherwood2022.com. And the cool thing about this, and I want you to remember this right here: never bow down to tyrants, defy them. Remember, tyranny is when the people fear the government. The question you have to ask yourself is, have you and did you fear the government? If you did, you are in a state of tyrannical bondage. Isn't it time to get free? Freedom comes when the government fears the people. That doesn't mean that we have to go attack the government, but it means that we have to be prepared to, if need be. We don't want to have to go there. We want to be able to stand firm in what we believe. Understand your rights, protect your rights with your life if need be. Let those words of Patrick Henry ring and true in your life. Give me liberty or give me death. Folks, today, let me paraphrase it in this way: take back your liberty or lose your life. It's that simple. Folks, I appreciate you. From behalf of Wayne and I and the rest of our team, God bless you. Have a wonderful night. Make sure you share this video. If you have people you want us to bring on here, connect us. Any questions you have, reach out to us. We love you. We care about you. May God bless you, your family, these United States of America, and the state of Oklahoma. We'll see you next time.
Amen.
We have up is down, left is right, bad is good, confusion. And God is not the author of confusion.
God wants to bless America. but it starts with his people first repenting and the ending of sin.
We have been in ministry the last 20 years. It was in prayer that the Lord began to convict me to run for office. And so I'm excited about Dr. Sherwood stepping up to the plate.
This is a man after God's own heart who will not compromise with the devil.
He's bold, he's courageous.
I'm Nick Vujicic,
Warren Hamilton.
I'm Jake Merrick,
and I endorse
Enthusiastically,
Dr. Mark Sherwood
as governor of Oklahoma.
The ending of slavery happened with total abolishing of it. We must see this as well for abortion. It's America's Holocaust.
We still have abortions in Oklahoma. How can you be pro-life and have one abortion? Why not stop it right now? And I make a commitment right now that I'm going to do everything I can to completely abolish abortion in the state of Oklahoma within the first 30 days of office.
vaccine mandates that are being rolled out right now are entirely unconstitutional and unbiblical. Every state that's a member of these United States, that's a member of our union, said we'll abide by the Constitution. That's why we don't tinker with it too much.
So I believe the word mandate doesn't equate to law. I am a big believer in the 10th Amendment, and that means state sovereignty. I would propose that every single business owner in Oklahoma that's affected by that ridiculous mandate push back and say no, because they don't own you. The federal government does not own you. We need to own that amendment, understand what it is, and not be afraid to push back.
We have to understand where critical race theory came from. Obviously, it comes from the Marxist handbook. And if we preach this and promote this, we end up a Marxist nation. It is not social justice. It is not anti-racism. It's actually racism in its purest form. The very thing Martin Luther King Jr. talked about, we're not going to allow this to be taught where we judge by the color of our skin.
There's one race. It's called the human race. I'm not going to apologize for being white. I'm not even white. I don't even know what I am. Kids in school need to be taught how to live life. Right now, we're teaching them theories about how to hate. That's not education, that's brainwashing. We will not do that under my administration. We will fine every school that does that. And if they don't like it, they can take their education and find another state that will accept that nonsense. People all need to be healed. Our state needs to be healed, our land needs to be healed, the economy needs to be healed, and our confidence needs to be healed. Our hope needs to be restored. God has gifted us as healers. We know that we're called to not just heal people individually like we do, but we know now we're called to heal a group of people called the state of Oklahoma. My name is Mark Sherwood, and I'm running for governor of the state of Oklahoma.